So in this video, I kind of want to go over how my travels have been over the past couple of years, because I really, before 2016, I did not take like a really big travel. I was pretty much, my travels were confined to just the East Coast, and obviously, due to COVID in 2020 and 2021, I did not really venture outside the East Coast. Now, in 2021, I did technically leave the Northeast and Southeast regions. I was confined to the Northeast for all of 2020. 2021, I did go to the Southeast on a camp with down to all the way down to Florida, and and of course and of course, when I went to West Virginia, as I uploaded on my YouTube channel, maybe, oh, nope, I didn't, because I didn't have a channel back then. I drove through West Virginia, and we made a stop there. So I'm just going to go through all my travels, though, and describe to them what I essentially did in the modern era of my travels, which begins in 2016. In 2016, I boarded a plane there, and I went to Chicago. Chicago is not the farthest place I've been. That on it goes to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and that was at the time, but Chicago was still my first time leaving the time zone and really the East Coast in general. Plus, I went to Florida down in 2008, 2009, and 2010, and 2015, but they weren't really big travels because I pretty much was confined to just the East Coast. This gave me a chance to kind of explore out a bit. We landed in Chicago on the 24th of August. We did sightseeing in the city on the 25th, 26th. On the 27th, we went to a skyscraper, then went to the airport to rent a car, which we would drive, making a stop near Gary, Indiana, and then going off to Kalamazoo, Michigan, because I have family that lives there. Once we were in Kalamazoo, we stayed there for a day, and then we drove back, making another stop near Gary, Indiana, before heading back to Chicago, because the next one we would be flying back home, and that was August 30th. Now, on that trip, on that trip, it was a little bit weird. I was within a couple miles of a major national park, Indiana Dunes National Park, but we didn't really know about it, and also we were on our way to see family. And Indiana, at the time, was seen as just a stopping point to get me to a new state, which would make Indiana my 12th state, and Michigan, a state that was our intended destination, would fall as my 13th state. This is my first time leaving the time zone as well, so that was pretty cool. 2017, I really didn't take any big travels. Even though I was camping trips, they were, like, at that point, they were not super impressive trips. They were, like, it was just like Connecticut, Pennsylvania. They weren't really impressive. And my family vacation down to the DC and then, but before that, the Hampton Roads area, Virginia, wasn't really that impressive. Now, the trip was from August 21st to 28th, which was actually a pretty big vacation, a pretty long vacation for me. But I only got one new state, North Carolina, because I've been to Virginia before. On the 23rd of August, when we went down to the Kitty Hawk or Kill Devil Hills to the Wright Brothers Memorial. It's only 8 miles from Jockeyes National Park, Jockeye State Park, but we didn't go because, again, poor planning and not our intended destination. And also, we weren't even really supposed to go to North Carolina. Once we figured out how far it was, just that once I knew I was getting a new state, it's me. I'm going to be honest. If you tell me I'm going to a new state and then you cancel it, I am very unhappy. So we kind of had to leave it as is because it's about 2.5 hours from Williamsburg. Kind of because we have to go like east, then come back west. It's a process. It's a process, not gonna lie. Now the thing is that when you go from as you go to now the thing is that you know as I go to all these new states, I have to realize that's fine and all, but eventually I'm going to get there regardless. And I think me going to overextending and going to all these places is why 2021 became a bit stressful, because then Alabama was going places and I've already been to all these places, and in a lot of cases it was bad luck too. I wasn't really even supposed to go to these places. We just had no other choice. This would be the case during the COVID years, although in one case we actually knew about where we were going. It's just that at that point I was things were going on. Oh wait, it's wet. I don't want to be sitting there. Okay, now anyway, 2018 would be a very exciting travel, because once camp ended, August 18th to 24th, we were down to Tennessee. The 19th, I never been to Tennessee before. We landed in Memphis, and then the 19th, we went to Graceland, and then we also went to the two new states, Mississippi and later Arkansas. Then on the 20th, we left and went to Nashville. We didn't really do that much in Memphis, because there's not really that much to do in Memphis, even though it's even popular to Nashville. Nashville has more to do, though on the 22nd, we went up to Mammoth Caves. On the 24th, we flew back from Nashville to New York. Even though Memphis and Nashville are pretty much in a straight line from each other, and when you fly to Memphis, you pretty much go over Nashville. You fly over Ohio on the way there and not on the way back. I've never been to Ohio at that point. Just haven't. But I would eventually get there. And I didn't really do anything in Mississippi or Arkansas. Again, it's just kind of to say that we were there. Whereas in Kentucky, again, I went to my first national park, Mammoth Caves National Park. My mom didn't go, which meant that Kentucky would be my first state, though I get one more that I've been to that my mom hasn't. But I went to with my dad to every single state. That being said, my mom has been to 4 more states than my dad. Crazy, isn't it? Well, anyway, that was 2018. Again, our camp trips, the same old Connecticut, Pennsylvania. They didn't really take off. And even in 2019, it was still kind of lame, because that was a lame camp year, and in 2020, I was supposed to go on a big trip, canceled due to COVID. Now, in 2018, that was our trip, and it was, and leading up to that point, West Memphis, Arkansas, was the furthest west, the furthest from home that I've ever been. 2019 will not change that, because we flew down to Savannah, Georgia, to then go to Hilton Head, South Carolina. We would see some family up in Charleston and go to the South Carolina Aquarium there. And so it was 25th, 29th. So 27th, we went to Charleston. In Savannah, we actually go to a pretty famous park. Savannah to Hilton Head was about 50 minutes, actually over 2 hours at Charleston, and I made a video on that, on how it was one of my most remote drives, because first of all, we were on I-95, and then we got off. It's 30 minutes from the 95 highway to Hilton Head, but it's also off exit 8. So that meant it was only 8 miles from the border with Georgia. And again, a lot of this was on the Southeast 95 corridor, actually on the entire 95 corridor, our camp would wind up going to in 2021. Because even though there was COVID and they had to scale back our plans a little bit, they still actually put on a really good show. Like, I'm going to be honest, due to circumstances, I was actually pretty happy with what camp did. Well, actually, I wasn't, but it's not because they planned the trips badly. I'm going to give them credit for actually planning them good. I would personally have made a lot of improvements, but honestly, I would give them a 7 out of 10 for the trip, which is good for me because I'm a harsh grader. It's just that I was annoyed because I was unlucky, but that was my fault, not the camp's. And also, and also there were places where it could be better. I had some bad experiences. Like, I give my summer only a 5 out of 10, but it wasn't really the camp's fault that much. They, and in the land of COVID, a lot of places, we only they really did not take a 2-week trip or a week and a half trip down to the southeast. But again, all these I'm mentioning now, I would wind up coming back to, and that kind of hurt a bit. You know, in Savannah, I went to a park. It was actually pretty cool. It was also kind of a beach vacation, which I don't really like, but it was also to spend time with family. We actually wanted to do this in 2018, but what happened was that nobody could agree on where to go, and so we decided not to do it. And then in 2019, we began to agree. Now, 2020, we would only wind up going to Wells, Maine, and then go to Portland and also New Hampshire. We had to drive through New Hampshire to get there on the 23rd. And on the 24th, we went to the Great Bay National Wildlife Refuge there in Portsmouth. We also went out to Port Lind on August 25th, and to the Rachel Carson National Wildlife Refuge on the 26th. Back then, I wasn't really able to wear, my parents had a lot more control on what I wear, so I pretty much from mid-June to mid-September, I was stuck wearing shorts. And but on August 26th, due to a cold front, it was so cold in Maine with a low of 56.5, 76, my mom did actually give out the pants, which was nice. You know. Now I have more control on what I wear. I mean, obviously, I still have to set boundaries for myself, and I know I still have to wear shorts at some point, but I have more control on what I wear now than I did before, which is nice. Anyway, I don't want to turn into a clothing rant. So that was 2020, and Alcam didn't really take any trips. In 2019, Alcam didn't really take that many big trips. I mean, we went out to upstate New York, and we went pretty far. Alcam took a trip to Boston. We went down to Baltimore and D.C. That was kind of nice. Oh, wait, we stopped in Delaware. Now, I actually went to Delaware for a pit stop in 2012, and this is another pit stop in 2018. Haven't been to Delaware any other times, even though I've driven through that area. We didn't make any stops. But again, for a lot of people, this was their first time going to Delaware, just because of the fact that it's not really a state that you go to, and a lot of people don't use the bathrooms as I do, and because I have to use the bathroom a lot, we typically slice it up where if there's a new state on the way, we always make a bathroom stop in that new state, even though I have to concede that it would turn otherwise 2 stops down to just 1 stop, and I'm going to have to hold it for longer. I have to make the concession because otherwise, if we do 2, we might wind up skipping that state, especially when you're not really driving in it for that much time. Like Delaware on 95 is only 20 miles about. And actually, I think it's even less because you get off and go on a 295. You're probably only driving through Delaware for 15 miles. So, yeah. Now, in 2021, our camp, we went up further into New Hampshire, Maine. We went to the White Mountain National Forest. We went to Bar Harbor, though unfortunately no Acadia, because the National Park Service was 6 months backlogged, and we did not know that we were taking this many big trips until April. Let's go. And guess what the itinerary is not out for? This summer. I'm going to deeply analyze the trip once it comes out, I promise you. I promise you. I will. Or the second I get the chance to. I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to get the chance to. Now, in the month of... what am I saying? Now, in 2021, we would go down to Florida and go all the way down to Disney World and Universal, as well as the Kennedy Space Center, which is on the Canaveral National Seashore. But you didn't know that. But we would also make some stops, like in Pooler, Georgia, and for lunch in Smithfield, North Carolina, for a night, and then in Fayetteville for a meal. South Carolina, we not only spent the night there, but we actually went to Myrtle Beach in the Myrtle Beach State Park there. So the 26th we drove down and we made it to North Carolina. 27th we made it to Florida. Then on August 1st we came back. We were supposed to get to South Carolina, and for a lot of them, been to South Carolina, and they were anticipating August 1st would be their first time in that state. It was actually August 2nd because, let's just say there were a bunch of delays where we were having a meal in Jacksonville, and the bus had to get repaired, which they couldn't repair the bus, which sucked. Actually, I think they might have been able to. I don't know. Oh, no, they couldn't. They were trying to repair the bus, so we wound up spending an extra hour there and not getting back until 12:30. So we didn't really go to bed until 2 o'clock in the morning, and we still had to get up at 7:30 the next day. It was actually, we were actually running behind for a while because of two counselors getting lost who shall remain nameless on the 31st of July. On the first of the Florida trip, Neil actually had his sister drive down, but on but because she was an EMT. But on the 31st, she went back up because I guess spending 5 nights with a bunch of teenagers down in Florida, or 2 for Florida and in Florida, I guess is enough for one person who wasn't really expecting to do this anyway. We would wind up going all the way to Niagara Falls, though no Canada portion of it, because we wound up technically going into Canadian waters, but no Canada part of it yet, because the border was closed, even though normally in a Niagara Falls trip they do that, and they also typically go to Toronto. The border would reopen on August 9th, but we wouldn't be going until February. I didn't mean to spoil anything, even though you probably already know because you probably already all seen my video of me in Canada. It was a completely different part of Canada, though. Of my provinces, I would have least expected this to be the first province I've ever been to. Like, honestly, of all the provinces, well, maybe not the least expected, but I did not anticipate this at all to be my first province. I thought it would be like Ontario, Quebec, or maybe New Brunswick. I did not think it was going to be the province I went to. But that actually stung a bit. But yeah, and then for our family trip, we went to Pittsburgh, where we took a drive out to Flushing, Ohio to see a closed museum, and then to go to a cafe. And meanwhile, in West Virginia, we went to the Oglala Bay Good Zoo, which isn't famous at all. It was just a random zoo I found in Wheeling. Now in Pittsburgh, we took the trip on the 22nd, we got there on the 20th, and we drove back on the 25th, so I actually missed a fair amount of marching band practices for it. Now in 2022, my biggest trip yet, we would go to my farthest point, which is Stanley Park in British Columbia in Vancouver. Now, we went to the Vancouver Queer, and it's all we really did in Canada. And it was on the 20th. We flew out on the 19th. We got to Seattle. We got to Canada on the 20th. 21st and 23rd, we sightseed around Washington, Seattle, or the Seattle area, because on the 21st we actually went up to Everett. 22nd, we went south to Portland to Tryon Creek State Park. 24th, we flew back. It was unfortunate because here it got to 68, maybe even 69 degrees, and we were too busy in Seattle to be able to enjoy it, when in Seattle it was in the 30s. But the day that we got back, the temperatures had crashed due to an oncoming cold front. And it was not supposed to get that warm either. It was only supposed to get to about 60, but it outperformed because it was able to warm up before the cold inevitably came in, smashing the temperatures all the way down to the 20s by that night. It was like high 60s, and then the next morning it was upper 20s, and the temperature would continue to fall. So let's say it was barely freezing when we got back. When we flew out, it was actually 23, and when we landed in Seattle, it was 46. It was nice, but every single day got colder, and the one day in Seattle, I believe it might have actually hit 50. We were in Vancouver, where it could only get up to 45. Or as they were saying in Vancouver, 7 degrees Celsius. It was so nice to use metric. I like metric, but I know I have to use custom right here because most of you are probably American. Anyway, Anyway, that's really the extent of all my travels recently. I've taken some other trips, but I've pretty much retraced over them with the exception of like maybe Rhode Island. I don't know.